Hi, my name is Kaushik Padmanabhan. I am an ITGM MFA at SCAD. My thesis topic is Improving Learning Interest in School Subjects Through the Use of Video Games as Supplementary Material. Games and play are a more engaging way of learning and reinforcing concepts being taught in school. By using situated learning to contextualize games into the teaching pedagogy, students will have a better and more positive learning experience in retaining concepts. Classrooms traditionally try and teach subjects without getting the student situated in the right context that allows for learning to occur properly. Using James Paul Gee's new literacy theories of situated cognition and semiotic domains, the goal of this paper is to test if video games are a good supplement to in-class learning. The paper will test video games as learning material for SCAD's Physics 201 class. A set of prototype puzzles will be created in Algudu and will be shared with the students. Their grades before and after play, as well as feedback, will be used to assess the viability of this proposal. My main theoretical framework comes from two books: What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy by James Paul Gee, and The Ecology of Games by Katie Salen. The former contains the majority of my theoretical framework, as it introduces the concepts of semiotic domain, which is like a subject but much more fluid area of literacy that involves a multisensory approach and focuses on social rather than individual, and the concept of the situated learning matrix, which is learning these semiotic domains not through their content but by taking up a new identity and then learning the content through that identity. The book The Ecology of Games takes these two theories and is a collection of papers that's written by multiple authors. They take these theories and apply them to real-world tests and real-world subjects and really stretch the theory to show how and where it works. Some of the concepts in my framework are semiotic domain and situated learning matrix. Some others are situated cognition, which is the idea that learning is inseparable from doing. The regime of competence, which is the area of a semiotic domain which you can navigate comfortably, so something that's not too hard, not too easy. Fiero, which is an Italian word for pride. It's the hard-to-explain feeling you get when you accomplish something in a game you think was hard, and it is a major reason why people play games. And the other major reason people play games are flow, which is a state when you're completely engaged in activity, which is again to say it's neither too hard or too easy, it's working just on your regime of competence. And when you're in a state of flow, you're working to the very limits of what you can. Some companies that do some similar things as to what I've proposed are companies like Tilt Factor. In their own words, Tilt Factor conducts controlled research studies for nearly every game produced. Study results are then incorporated into an iterative design process in order to maximize positive social impact. They take games and they try to study them for the benefit of society. There's a company like Skittles, which takes existing games and then just puts math and physics questions in between the levels, so its incentive to do the levels is to play the next level. Kerbal EDU, which takes the game Kerbal Space Program and offers way more educational visualizations, such as after flight reports, and then even in the game offers educational resources. There's Teacher Gaming, which sells a subscription and then allows for unlimited access to pre-existing games with a lesson plan that helps connect the game to a subject. And Minecraft EDU, which was started by people at Teacher Gaming, but it's essentially Minecraft but with lesson plans and custom levels for it. So two main points with my secondary research. Number one, we don't like school. 73% of children said they don't like school. 60% of them said they don't see any value in the work they were being asked to do. A majority of both high school and post-high school students say they're stressed out or bored from going to school. And also, I think this quote, which is pretty important, just 54% of middle schoolers and 46% of high schoolers think their studies are relevant, according to new data from the nonprofit Youth Truth. And my second point is we want games. When in a study when people asked students about how they felt games affected education, over half the students replied that games would make it easier to understand difficult concepts, games would make it easier to engage with the subject. Over 97% of all youth play computer games, and people from the age of 15 to 25 spend at least on average about an hour playing games every day. So my visual component for this ended up being 3 different proof of concepts. Each proof of concept is a small puzzle experience. I ended up making 2 for physics and 1 for economics. The key to proof of concept succeeding is that it requires a communicating classroom to be effective. For my research, the most powerful learning occurs not when the game is played, but the discussion that takes place after. So I initially started off with a puzzle called the Hooke's Law puzzle. The goal is for the player to identify an unknown weight, and they do this by using physics formula and calculating the tension of a spring. I think this was the weakest puzzle because it was straightforward, only had one solution and no room for experimentation and conversation. My second puzzle, which was made in a game called Capitalism Labs, involves players starting out in a city that already has businesses, and they have a business which is failing. The players have to figure out, using different analysis techniques they learn in class, on what possible actions they can take next as a business. And when it's played, you can decide who wins based on which company is the most profitable at the end. I think this was a pretty good approach because it is open-ended and allows for a lot of discussion in class. However, just getting a grips of the game takes a while, and that complexity, I think, is its biggest pitfall. My third puzzle took the sandbox elements of the second one and the simplicity of the first one. It's a very simple puzzle, or it's a very simple experience where you watch a man gliding down, and the goal is for students to watch the glider man fly and use various tools to analyze it and hypothesize what his speed time graph would look like. This exercise, I think, is the most successful because it requires people hypothesizing, putting their hypothesis out there, and real communication happening, as well as the game providing real-time feedback to see how correct, wrong your hypothesis was. So for the current testing, I sent my prototypes out to the SCAD physics professor and the SCAD economic professor, who sent me feedback that I was going to use for further improvement. They believe that the proof of concepts I sent them would be useful. The economics professor mentioned that it was too complicated to understand and would take too long. He prefers games on his mobile device that are casual, that you can play, anytime. Both professors agree that in class is where they would want to use the game, and both of them have told me that they use online simulations currently, and games would be a nice next step. My goals for next quarter are to create my own prototype that I'm going to test out. The reason for this is I found modifying a game to have too many limitations when it comes to what I want from testing, and I think that creating a small prototype of my own will help me overcome that. I'm going to keep the gameplay simple. I'm going to keep the focus on sandbox gameplay. I want to focus on an in-class activity as opposed to homework, and I want the prototype to provoke in-class discussion. And the methods I'm hoping to use to collect my testing data is going to be interviews, recordings, survey, and questionnaires, and because it's my own prototype, I'm going to have special game log files.